Hello and welcome to the Resilient Kid podcast with me, Ashley Costello, psychotherapist of over 25 years. Hello, how are we all? So I'm kind of coming off the back of 50th birthday celebrations. And yeah, they've really lasted a long time. But I've had an absolute amazing time and really felt lots of love, and really gave me a real drive to carry on with the work that I do as well. And it is some of this work that I want to talk to you about today. I've had lots of really positive feedback about the podcast, especially the neurodiverse ones. Lots of parents, and we've talked about this before, who are recognizing traits in themselves that are now being assessed in their children. And it doesn't really matter what age that child, it could be a uni student, could be primary, but is kind of, really, I guess, allowing them, and also for them to recognize, actually, that's why I've struggled, and maybe they've had really good coping mechanisms in place. And so it hasn't come up before, but it's actually just giving themselves permission to go, oh, actually, that's why. So really good feedback about the podcast with Michelle and Helen on neurodiversity and families with neurodiversity. Also, the podcast that I did, the one just before here, where I was saying being an advocate for school, and that came about again because parents have come to me and are really struggling, and there's a big education piece for me to go into schools and to speak to the parents about what schools can offer, liaise with schools, things like that. And so I've had the lovely Chantelle, who has come to me and said, actually, you really spurred me on to navigate something that I needed for one of my children, and it's really helped them. One of the things, and I can't remember if I mentioned it in the podcast last week or not, but like one of the things that I do is I've got a client at the moment who really struggles with anxiety. They're coming up to taking, their final year before exams. And I will be writing a letter to ask for extra time because they absolutely need it. And why would we put that barrier to learning and attaining in if we can just adjust something? And often parents don't understand or don't realize that we can ask for that. You can ask sometimes for them to sit it at a different time. You can ask for extra time, or you can ask for rest breaks. If it's all getting too much, they actually stop the clock and allow them to just take a rest. And then when they're ready, the clock starts again. So it's not that they're particularly getting extra time to work on their exam, but they might get extra rest breaks and stuff. So yeah. So so absolutely, it's been lovely to have that feedback, and thank you everybody who replies to an email or drops me a message on socials, just comments on the podcast. Thank you very much. So today it's a little bit of an extension of this because I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet. And I apologize up front if you think this is a rant. However, as supermarkets have just got bigger and bigger and more convenient, which is lovely, isn't it? It's like, it is fab. It's fab to know that you can go on a Sunday. As much as I really wish Sundays the shops weren't open. It's really lovely that we can go to a shop and there's lots and lots of things there, and we don't have to go to 5-6 different shops for various different things. And one of my things about this is, as much as I love that, I think sometimes we go a little bit too far. So for instance, when we lived in Abu Dhabi, we absolutely had to go to 5 or 6 different shops to get everything in, that we needed for a weekly shop. In the summer, we took my daughter to France for her 16th, and we went to Nice. And what we noticed there is it was a little bit similar, but not that the supermarkets didn't sell like alcohol, or they didn't sell, kind of little things for the house and as well as food. But actually what we noticed is that medication was kept in a chemist, in a pharmacy. You cannot buy paracetamol in France in a supermarket. You have to go to a pharmacy. And you think, oh, but that's a bit of a pain. And I get it. I absolutely get it. However, I want to tell you a story. I've got a story of a young client who is, let's say, 13, and who has been struggling for various different reasons, really deep, heavy reasons, been struggling for some time. And to the point that the trauma that they have gone through has left them in fight and flight. Now, fight and flight, for those who for those who don't know, many of you will know, but for those who you don't know, is when they walk into school in the morning, they're already on edge. They're already very hypervigilant, waiting for what's going to happen next. And anything can set them off. So that could be a new challenge. Now, I've spoken before about the podcast when we have very young people, say primary, that go into school sometimes if stuff has happened at home, and this can happen to any age group, not specifically primary, where something might have happened in the morning. That could be a fight with a sibling, it could be arguments between mum and dad, could be they've not got the homework and they've not understood the homework, things like that. And they're already going into school in that fight, flight, fear place. They're feeling under threat. Then as school, as teachers, we ask something more of them that we weren't expecting, like there's suddenly going to be an assembly, or we're going to have a maths test today, and they'd forgotten or they didn't realise, and it can really send that child into meltdown. Now, that happens across the board, doesn't matter if they're at university or primary. However, this young person that I'm talking about, I'm going to call them Ted. I don't know why I picked Ted, but anyway, I'm going to call him Ted. Probably because I don't have any clients called Ted, that's why. And Ted has been struggling for over a year. And when they go into school, if something happens that will just tip them over the edge, their default setting is to run. And when I say run, I don't mean run away from teachers, run out of class or anything like that. They will slowly and very calmly, to the outside, to an onlooker, will leave school. And when they get out, they run. And they run to the nearest shop and they take paracetamol off the shelf. And they will jump on public transport and they will take this paracetamol, all 2, 3, 4 packets of it. And at this point, there isn't then an alarm gone out at school. And the police are called and they have to find Ted and take them to hospital and obviously get their stomach pumped. Now, in supermarkets, we are limited because of the damage that paracetamol can do to our internal organs, to our stomach lining, and essentially can kill us. They are limited to 16. However, because supermarkets have them on the shelf, any supermarket who thinks that a young person is going to go and ask for a box of paracetamol when they are in fight and flight, when they want to intentionally try and kill themselves, we are not going to be asking the nice person behind the counter for 2 boxes because you won't get them. But we don't have to because they're on the shelf, because supermarkets want to make it convenient for us, a little bit too convenient. And it is one of those kind of impulse buys, isn't it? And particularly because paracetamol now is less than £1 a packet. I mean, I think you can get them for like 30p, So 30p for 16 tablets. We can't buy more than 1 packet, but we can steal as many as we can get in our pocket. When we think about a young person that is at the absolute end of their tether, why would we put paracetamol on open sale on a supermarket shelf? This is not the first time I've heard of this happening. It is not the last time, I am sure, unless we do something about it. Unless, as adults, as kid champions in young people's lives, unless we do something about it, this will continue to happen. Now, fortunately, Ted is okay. Ted is actually more than okay and doing really, really amazingly. However, that is not saying that Ted won't do it again when they feel trapped and cornered. That's not saying that other teens around the country don't do the same thing, because I know they do. I am going to put underneath here, I am going to put a petition up, and I would really, really love for you to sign the petition and share it on your socials. It's really important that as kid champions, as people who in the community who look out for kids, you don't know Ted. You don't know Ted. Most people in the village where they took the paracetamols don't know Ted. The person in the supermarket don't know Ted. Now, we have approached the said supermarket, and I'm not going to name them here. And we've not really had a very good response. And so I think it's about time that if we care about kids as much as we say, if we are the parents, the educators, the kids champion, the community adults in their lives, then we need to do something about it. And right now, this is what we can do. We don't need money. It's not going to take money. One of the few things that's not going to take money is going to take pressure. It's going to take pressure and signing the petition to get paracetamol off the open shelves so that you and I, as adults, can go up and say, can I have a box of them? Thanks. That'd be really appreciated. That's it. That's all we have to do. That's the only inconvenience it's going to do, apart from signing the petition. So please, please, would really love for you to sign the petition, not just so that other children and young adults can't take paracetamol as their go-to overdose, but actually for Ted. To say, guess what, Ted? These people care. Guess what, Ted? That will not happen again on my watch. So sign the petition. And also, please be aware of where your paracetamol is, where tablets and medication in your house is. Keep a check on them, know how many's there. I cannot tell you how many clients, young people, clients that I have had who have squirreled away paracetamol without us noticing. Because let's face it, I know in my house, the hubby could be taking paracetamol. My older one could be taking paracetamol, although they do always ask for it. But my husband doesn't know how many I take and vice versa. So that box of 16 within a couple of weeks can be down to 2. And then, we'll buy some more. So be aware, because paracetamol, although not always the easiest to swallow, is the drug, the medicine of choice if somebody wants to take their own life. They want to attempt to take their own life, paracetamol is the one. So let us all be responsible for medications in our houses. But please, please, for all those kids, for Ted, let's sign the petition and make the supermarkets, put some pressure on the supermarkets to actually do something about this and take paracetamol and other medication like that off the open shelves. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Really appreciate it. Please share on your socials, sign up, send it to your email list, whatever you can. I'd really appreciate it. Take care. Stay safe.